A portion of this video is sponsored by Squarespace. More on them at the end.
The one dish that changed food wars forever. And that dish is the galette that Saiba made for Erina. After tasting this dish, she finally said, food seemed fun to me. I want to experience it today and take you guys through it and see whether or not this dish lives up to the hype. Now, I have made thousands of galettes at this point, and they are super simple to put together. Galettes basically are free-formed pie dough or pie shell. They can also be pastry shells. Galettes are mostly a technique versus an actual dish. So the first thing I'm gonna be doing is making my pie dough. This recipe comes courtesy of Serious Eats. If you guys wanna check out the link for that, it's down below. Into my food processor, I have 350 grams worth of all-purpose flour, followed by about 25 grams worth of sugar, 5 grams worth of salt. We're gonna pulse this for just about 10 seconds to get all that dry stuff ready. This is essentially a foolproof method, and instead of laminating dough because that takes so long, we're doing it this way. It's just so much easier. I'm gonna take about 280 grams worth of butter. Yes, this is a ton of butter. I'm putting almost all of it in there. Oh, there goes my water. Oh, I have wet socks. Why is it that when you spill any kind of liquid while you're cooking in the kitchen, that few ounces seems like an entire tidal wave? Now we're gonna pulse this until we get this crumbly texture with the butter and then add in the rest of it. Really don't want to go too long, because then what'll end up happening is if you go too long, the butter will start to melt, and you don't want the butter to melt. Gonna make sure we give this a nice scrape, make sure there's nothing on the bottom. Add in the rest of our butter. This is the remaining bit that we have for a total of 280 grams. Yes, this is a lot of butter. That second pulse went for about 10 to 15 seconds as well, and this is what flour and butter start to look like. You can see how crumbly that texture is. That's really what you want to go for. Now, once you have this is when we get to add our water that I had to remeasure. This is 6 tablespoons worth of water. I'm gonna do about 3/4 of it right now. Pulse this up. It's gonna start to come together, so let it do its thing. You can hear it slowing down. Once we get to that point, I think my blender is starting to slowly die. We're gonna add in the remainder, just a little bit of water. You don't need too much. Scrape this down, making sure that all of that starts coming together. One more time. There we go. Come on. Come together. See that? Once that happens, that's it. We're gonna remove this and start working with it. If you don't have a food processor at home, you can definitely do this by hand. It's just gonna require a lot more effort. Now we're gonna take all of this dough, pop it right onto your working surface. Now, because it is pastry dough, I don't wanna actually use too much flour to bring this together. All I'm doing really is trying to form this very, very quickly, just so this way I can pop it in the fridge. Pastry dough or pie dough should be a little loose, and that's gonna be totally fine. I'm really just bringing this together by hand, so this way it can rest, because we don't wanna work with this right away. Once you have this makes a lot of galette, by the way, but once you have this ready, this is when we're gonna cut this into quarters. This way we're gonna have 4 galettes total. And also it's gonna rest a lot faster. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you can wrap these individually if you want to with plastic. Since I'm mostly gonna be making these all today, I'm just gonna throw them in some Tupperware. I just want these to rest for, I don't know, maybe like an hour or so, just so this way the butter gets cold again. It's really important that when you're using this for pastry dough, butter and the dough is cold. Almost to a point to where we're gonna roll it. After we do this, fill it, cool it again, then bake it. That's how important it is. Now with the pastry dough out of the way, we get to make the filling, and the filling is gonna be delicious. Now when you make a galette, you do have to cook the filling ahead of time. For this galette, we have mushrooms, cherry tomatoes, bacon, asparagus, goat cheese for a goat cheese spread, and then we're gonna top it off with an egg. The other challenge that I'm gonna have for this is to make sure I cook everything in a single pan. Someone on Discord asked me about that, and so yes, we're gonna be doing this in a single pan. Well, minus the baking tray later. For the mushrooms, all I'm gonna be doing is cutting off the stems and then cutting these into small, so like bite-sized pieces. You don't want anything in this galette to be too big, otherwise it's gonna overpower everything else that's next to it. All I'm gonna be doing for all of this mushroom. Once you have your mushrooms all cut up, place them into whatever container you want and set them to the side. You're not gonna need them immediately. As far as the asparagus goes, I would say try to find pencil asparagus if you can, but my local grocery store only had regular jumbo asparagus, so we're gonna work with it. We're gonna slice these into nice little rounds instead. This way it cuts relatively quickly, and this is why I was saying that pencil asparagus would probably be a little bit better than this. Pop your sliced asparagus right into your container. This is what it looks like. It's just nice and chopped. Cherry tomatoes, we're not gonna need all of these cherry tomatoes, but I decided to wash them because I just keep them in the fridge so I can snack on them. And I'm pretty sure in this picture on the anime, it was cherry tomatoes. Really hard to tell, but I don't think of anything else that I would use in lieu of cherry tomatoes for this. So for the cherry tomatoes, we're gonna cut them in half and then quarter them. This way you get nice little bite-sized pieces of cherry tomato. These are gonna go in like right at the end. We're not gonna be cooking these very long at all. Next thing is gonna be the bacon. Now the bacon, you just want nice thin slices. I think what we're actually gonna do too is we're gonna cut each slice of bacon in half. Then we're gonna cut those into smaller bits. So that way you get this kind of thing that you're working with. Now we're just gonna slice up all this bacon. Look at all that beautiful, beautiful bacon. This is why I cut it in half initially and then started slicing it, because if I didn't, I think they would be just a little bit too big for our galette. Containers, hello? Bacon, done. It'd be so good. You already know when there's bacon in it, it's going to be delicious. And for those of you who can't have bacon, absolutely use some chicken thigh. It's gonna be amazing. You could also use turkey bacon. That's an option as well. Wipe down this because there's bacon all over it. Now, as far as that creamy component goes, I have some Cypress Grove goat cheese. This is all I can really find for goat cheese around my house. And this one has some herbs in it, but that's gonna be totally fine because then I don't have to add my own herbs because I'm lazy. Also, Cypress Grove is absolutely one of my favorite cheese manufacturers. So this is why I purchased this one versus the generic brand that they have. So good. I have to take a bite of this. Oh my God, I'm so excited. My mouth just started watering. Oh yeah, all the herbs, the fennel, rosemary, garlic. This is gonna be a treat. Now, when you get your goat cheese too, make sure you don't buy like the crumbly goat cheese because that's really dry. You actually want the softer goat cheese. Now this, you could absolutely just take some dabs on it. Why would you take a dab on it? That doesn't make any sense. Take some dabs of this and place it onto your galette, but instead I'm gonna thin it out with just a bit of heavy cream. This is good, right? Yeah, it's good. Always smell your dairy. Always smell your dairy. I wanna start off with just 2 spoonfuls of heavy cream and start mixing this together. You could just put this in a blender as well, but I don't need to do that for this amount. Okay, 2 spoonfuls, definitely not enough. Oh God, there's 3 more. You want it to almost be the consistency of really thick cream. There we go, there we go. This is what I wanted. That's the texture that we really want. And now with the goat cheese done, all of our mise en place is ready. We need to cook off our filling first. What's great about galette fillings is that you can absolutely make these ahead of time. You can have that dough ready in the fridge. You can have some of this cooked off the night before and then just start adding this in and then throw it in your oven and you can have galettes every morning, really. Probably shouldn't, it's a lot of fat, but it's delicious. Now I'm not using any additional grease because I just want the bacon to render and get all of that bacon fat in there for our grease that we need. We're gonna cook the bacon until it is nicely rendered down. I wanna keep this over just about a medium high heat, nothing too crazy because I don't want it to actually burn. I want this to render down. Now this bacon is almost done cooking, but we still need to add the rest of our vegetables. This is when I'm gonna add some of our mushrooms. We're gonna saute this up just until those mushrooms get nice and tender, then finish it with the asparagus. The cherry tomatoes are gonna go in when we bake it. I'm gonna hit this with a bit of water so they start steaming the mushrooms. Throw a lid on it and let it cook for just, I don't know, 3-4 minutes. You wanna make sure that they're nice and tender. That's really hot, don't do that. This is when we add in some of our asparagus. Imagine how good that's gonna taste. You know it's gonna be amazing. Now I'm not gonna season this until I taste it because bacon can be really salty. That's perfect because the goat cheese also has some saltiness to it. Turn off the heat, get your container. These can tolerate heat, it'll be okay. We actually use these in restaurants and hot water baths, so this is gonna be okay. Make sure this is cold before you add it to your galette. It's been about just around 30-40 minutes on that dough to cool down. I'm gonna go ahead and start rolling this thing out so we can enjoy our galettes. This will probably be close to like a 6-inch galette. What I wanna do is make sure I just bring this out. I like to do it by hand first before I bust out the rolling pin, but you can just bust out the rolling pin. Keep rolling this out until you get it to that nice 1/4 inch thickness. And if you want, you can trim it, which is what we're probably going to do. But I also think that's a waste. Galettes traditionally are supposed to be free-formed. They're not supposed to be perfect. And you know what? I am gonna trim it just a touch, just so it's not so sloppy. Make sure you keep the scraps. You can still use those. Those are not bad at all. You can re-roll this into another one if you want to. Now that we have this bad boy, now we get to fill it. Grab some of this goat cheese cream, place that right into the middle. I wanna make sure I spread it around just a little bit. Take care not to put too much pressure into this, otherwise you can rip the dough. Now what I'm trying to do is imagine where all the filling is gonna sit. So this is gonna fold over just like this. That's a lot of goat cheese, but this is a lot of food. And once I have my layer of goat cheese on there, this is where we pile up the other ingredients that we cooked earlier. This is the bacon, asparagus, and the mushrooms. Get a nice pile of that in there. Finally, a couple of these cherry tomatoes. Don't need too many of these. You know what? I am gonna egg wash this. We're gonna egg wash it twice. Egg wash is gonna help protect it and give it a really nice color after it's done baking. 1 egg, no cream, no water, just straight up egg. I'm gonna do just a thin amount of egg wash onto the dough on the inside. I probably should have done this beforehand, but I don't like covering my egg with all the ingredients. I don't think it's necessary. Now for the galette part of it, bring this up, fold it over, and then you wanna like pinch, so you'll get like a crease on the one side over here. We're gonna fold here and then fold here, and then you get like this beautiful little pocket right over here. Pinch the two together, and there is the galette. That's what your galette should look like. Really, really simple stuff. The one in Food Wars was really, really angular. And I don't know if you can do that exactly without cutting the dough, and I don't think you should cut the dough. Sheet tray, parchment paper on your sheet tray, then your galette goes right onto there. Now egg wash the galette on the outside very thoroughly, otherwise it will burn on you. Last thing, a little bit of flaky sea salt just on the crust. This is gonna make it super savory. And then this bad boy is going in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 8 minutes. Rotate it halfway through. The only other thing we have to do is make that over easy egg, and we're gonna make that as soon as that's out of the oven. This actually went a lot longer than I thought it would. Granted, the last time I made a galette was in a bake shop with a convection oven, and this is just a still oven, so yes, it did take a lot longer, but this thing is gorgeous. Look at the color. I don't like to cut into these immediately, so we're gonna let this rest right on the stovetop while we're doing the egg. Let it go for like 10-15 minutes, otherwise you're gonna incinerate your mouth. You don't want that to happen. Now I'm using the world's cutest egg pan to make this single egg. Again, you can do whatever egg you want on top of it, but this is clearly a sunny side up egg. A little bit of grease in there. Oh God, that's hot. Another method you could do for your egg if you didn't want to do sunny side up is you could crack the egg on top of the pastry like halfway through its baking and let it just cook, and that'll be totally delicious too. Now once most of my egg white is cooked, the heat is off. I just want this to like steam for just a second. Just for a second. Let's get this thing plated up. Now, what plate should we use? All of my plates are so ugly. So this is kind of unfortunate. I went to plate this thing up and this happened. It was that tender. Look at, I'm just gonna make another one. Oh God, really? At the 11th hour, Paul? Well, here's the second one. Note to self, do not pick these up while they're still completely warm because they fall apart. Because I have an egg I can eat while I wait. God. Really? Literally last second. This is round 2 and it looks just as good as round 1. I'm going to not touch this at all until it is fully cooled down. This thing is cooled down for a bit. I'm gonna be very careful. I'm gonna move it straight here. We're not gonna, that's it. Don't wanna mess with this. Now we're gonna take another egg that I made because the previous one had definitely overcooked. Slip this on here somehow. Please don't break on me. And that's beautiful. The only thing is that now the egg completely covers up the filling. It's kind of sad, but I think we'll just roll with it. Should we cut the egg? Should we attempt to cut the egg? I'm just gonna do it, guys. We're gonna be so sneaky here, no one's gonna have to know. There we go. Now it looks better. Oh, what is happening today? Well, this is the dish that changed Food Wars forever. After eating this, Erina thought food was actually supposed to be fun and not whatever she was taught by her dad. And the real reason why I think this is supposed to be super fun is you can fill this with anything you want. It opens up a whole world of possibilities, and that's what I really think she saw in this. We're gonna cut straight into the middle. The pastry is just so flaky. You guys wanna see the inside of this? Look at the inside right there. Look at that crust. That's so nice. Okay, we're gonna take a big old bite. Cheers. That is so incredibly flavorful. And look at the crust, I'm so happy with it. That's fantastic, especially for being a non-laminated dough. Now I can see why Erina said that this was the dish that changed her mind about food, because yes, I can absolutely see that. If you guys wanna make it, the recipe is down below, as well as the Patreon to support the channel directly. My name is Chefpk, and remember, keep playing with your food.
And play around with Squarespace, today's sponsor.
Don't you wish you had somewhere to really gush about your love for anime? Well, you can just make that place with Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one tool that allows you to create websites very seamlessly without any updates ever. With all of their professional and beautifully designed templates, you can drag and drop anything you need to make your Squarespace your own. For being able to easily set up a blog, an online store, and even private communities, Squarespace really has everything that you need to get started. And if you guys are ready to get started, you can use the link down below for your free trial, and when you're ready to start your own journey, use my code Chefpk to save yourself 10% off. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and allowing me to have my own place on the internet.